Shoulders of Giants is a roguelite featuring the classic combo of gun-wielding frogs standing on top of sword-wielding robots. You'll hack, slash, shoot, and loot your way across multiple planets to battle the forces of entropy. You can go it alone or take up to 3 of your froggy friends with you in a game that surpassed all expectations I had for it. So let's break it down in the XboxEra review of Shoulders of Giants. Rogue is a dirty word to be included in a game's genre for many. Shoulders of Giants is a run-based game with your typical roguelite features. You are a frog-bot combo working against the forces of entropy alongside some furry and feathered friends. You'll start up each play session in a small mission hub where you can choose from various classes called cores, or equip new weapons and looks for your frog and robot. There is even a meta-leveling tree that uses an experience currency earned every time you finish a run that lets you build up your strumph, healing, and more in a satisfying way. The goal of the game is a simple one. As you clear each planet, you'll earn heat. But if you die during a run, you'll lose it. With this back and forth in mind, you'll attempt to reach 1,000 heat total to push the story forward. The galaxy is being taken over by entropy, and you need this heat to stave it off. Each planet you visit can have a few types of missions: Conquest and Storm. The majority of the time you'll be doing Conquest, in which you'll find and clear out a handful of spires around the procedurally generated map. After clearing these spires, you'll need to find the stage's monolith, at which points you'll face either a wave of smaller enemies or a larger boss. Storm sees you in a dark, rainy, and terrifying race to find the monolith. You do not have to destroy any spires, but you can't see more than 20 feet around you, and the game can dip to a terrifyingly low frame rate. Storm missions are not fun at all. The complete lack of vision is a never-ending exercise in frustration, and finding the monoliths feels completely random. The majority of my playtime was spent in the Conquest missions, which are fantastic. The enemy variety in the game is also not the highest, but what is there offers up a well-balanced challenge that was easy to read despite the very frantic nature of the combat. Shoulders of Giants isn't the hardest game in the genre, and it's definitely nowhere near as difficult as the game I think it most closely matches in Risk of Rain 2. Sadly, I only had one code for the review period, and I was never able to experience the game's up to 4-player co-op. The $20 launch price should help if you have a group of friends looking for something new to play, as this one is not scheduled to come to Game Pass day one. The bread and butter of this game, though, is its combat, so let's get into that. Shoulders of Giants is a third-person melee shooter, and it feels damned good in practice if you have an elite controller. The right trigger is your main robot attack, and each of the face buttons will eventually be used for abilities, with A always being your jump. B, X, and Y will eventually be home to pickups you'll find and spend energy on mid-run. That energy is earned every time you kill an enemy, or if you find a blue diamond spire that you can activate. Holding the left trigger, though, activates your frog for his ranged weaponry. He too will gain B, X, and Y abilities, and using these while aiming can be a massive pain in the butt. That is, unless you have an Elite controller with its aim-saving back paddles. I use an Elite Series 2 Core Edition, and I don't think this game would have been nearly as easy or fun without its back paddles. The left bumper is your dash, and the right bumper is your interact button, so having to use the face buttons while aiming with the right stick requires pulling your finger off of it every time. And that is where the paddles come into play for me, as this is a very fast-paced twitch shooter. Even using your robot abilities while meleeing is still far easier if you have an Elite. It is doable, and I have to imagine that co-op will only make things easier. But if you're looking to play solo, an Elite really is the way to go with, actually damn near any shooter. The variety of weaponry that you'll get feels pretty standard for the most part, but there is enough that I enjoy the constant deluge of new items and the random bonuses that could be available on them. Every gun, melee weapon, and core can have different items randomly attached to them, which give that one more run incentive as you try to find or craft new things. The core system consists of a main passive bonus, starting robot and frog abilities, and various levels of extras depending on the associated rarity. The normal white items are basic with level 1 abilities, but the legendary cores I got could have level 3 abilities and extra passive buffs on them. The same goes for the weaponry you'll either find or craft, and crafting is as simple as it gets. To roll a new item, you sacrifice 3 old ones. I had 4 of the same Thor hammers, which are called Electron hammers, and I used 3 of them to craft a new melee weapon. Every time you start a run, you'll see just how much heat you can win or lose, which items you'll potentially get, and how many levels the run will require for you to clear it. Most runs will be 2 or 3 levels long to start, and 75% of them will be conquest, with others like Storm added in as you progress up the heat chart. I'm not sure if there is a day 1 patch coming, but I did find the game perhaps a touch too easy overall. Even with the losing heat mechanic, if you just stick to the easier planet selection each time and make sure to use your experience points to upgrade, it's never a huge challenge. A big part of any roguelite/light is the per-run pickups, and the variety here is the game's strongest point. You have a very wide variety of abilities for your frog and robot, and mixing those in with your class and core abilities can lead to some wildly powerful combos. I had the Electron Thor Hammer, Speed Core, and the Float ability, which saw me fly across entire levels. I'm not 100% sure how the loot will work in co-op, but I hope it's either only you can see it like in Diablo, or it's just extra item drops for everyone and you can share. Also, you'll be using butterflies as your main way of healing, and hopefully they are more plentiful if there are more players. And Shoulders of Giants is a nice looking game, though I did run into some serious performance issues in those storm levels. Featuring a vivid color palette and an almost painterly look, I really do love the art style, and most of the time it felt like a rock solid 60 frames per second while offering up a clean looking image. During those storm levels though, when mixed with any large number of particle effects, you could see drops into what felt like the low teens. It was like Halo on the original Xbox back in 4-player split screen levels of slowdown, which hit me for long periods of time during a few of my runs, even though the majority of the screen really was nothing but darkness. And there is no voice acting in the title, but there's plenty of writing and it's really well done. Occasionally you'll interact with the 4 different NPCs in your hub world, either to learn their backstories or set up side quests, and it's a great mix of serious and goofy back and forth conversations in which you get to choose from multiple responses. The witty dialogue is matched by excellent music, though the tracks would abruptly cut off sometimes, even on the main menu. I did run into one major bug in which my screen went fully black and I could see or do nothing. Thankfully, a quick restart fixed it, and other than that, I had a rock-solid solo experience. And sadly, I really do have no idea how the co-op works in the game, as my attempts to matchmake were met with long waits and 0 actual matches with other people covering the title. Wrapping things up, Shoulders of Giants is a wonderful surprise. It's a third-person action roguelike with a ton of heart. Great gameplay, stylish graphics, satisfying progression, and a killer soundtrack combined to create a game that I loved spending time with. I know it's great solo, so as long as the co-op runs well, this is a title that you and your friends won't want to miss.